Rodd, your host.
And I'm producer Barbie.
And together,
we bring you our podcast,
Insights and Straight Talk. And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. Oh, man. Good morning. I had one heck of a workout this morning. It was a great workout. Need to do a little bit more stretching, but welcome to Insights and Straight Talk this morning. I'm Rod Duff, your host, alongside producer Barbie, of course. And today's conversation is one that, honestly, generally, I've been looking forward to. But before we begin that, I want to acknowledge the ecosystem that makes conversations like this possible. The Mangum City Library, thank you for standing for access, curiosity, and learning in ways that actually show up in real communities. To the Leaf Lab, thank you for providing the education that it can be practical, rigorous, and directly connected to the real world. And to our strategic partners, the Regeneration School Project, and Voices at the Table, thank you for helping us build spaces where leadership, responsibility, and dialogue are practiced early and passed forward. Now, here's why today matters. A lot of conversations about young people happen without them in the room. We analyze them, we label them. Of course, we worry about them, but too often we don't actually listen to them. That's exactly why I'm excited about our guest. Our guest is the Tech Boy, teen technologist, cultural commentator, Christian voice, and founder of TheTechBoy Media. And what makes this conversation powerful isn't just his age, it's his clarity. He's been talking about teenagers. He's not talking about them from a distance. Of course, this is a lived experience in real time. Navigating technology, culture, faith, social pressure, and identity while building a serious media platform along the way. This conversation, it aligns beautifully with Voices at the Table and the Regeneration School Project. And it mirrors, really, the work we regularly do on Insights and Straight Talk with Emma Lynn and Grandpa Rodd, typically on Saturdays. That, in those aspects, we're placing youth, curiosity, and lived experience into real dialogue with perspective, respect, and responsibility. This is not a teen segment. This is a serious, multi-generational conversation that happens to feature a young voice. And that distinction matters. Today, we'll explore what growing up digitally actually feels like from the inside, how technology empowers and complicates identity, where faith and values intersect with smartphones, social media, and AI, and what agency looks like for young people navigating systems that too often underestimate them. So whether you're a parent, educator, technologist, faith leader, or simply someone who believes the future should be shaped with young people, not just planned for them, this conversation is for you. Tech Boy, let's get
Hello,
into it.
thanks for having me on. I'm glad to be here.
I'm very excited about this. As I mentioned earlier, we have several programs that really recognize the split. And me being an old person, I said multi-generational just before we went on. There's a split right now. And really my kids are kind of the bridge, meaning your fathers, mothers, my kids that age that have seen both. Me and you live in two completely different worlds, and it's getting more that way as AI develops and so forth. So we already have 100 people on.
Oh, wow.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? I think today might have a little activity. But anyway, my point being is I can talk a lot about tech and media and how it intersects with this and that. you have another level of, I mean, your generation is basically born with a smartphone in your hand.
Mhm.
And then you add to that, mixing that in, the higher view that you're taking in culture and your faith. These are all things that are a whole nother level beyond what we're dealing with on the ground. So let's start with your journey. How did you kind of say, I got to get out there and talk to people? And then obviously it took off on you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In 2020, the summer of 2020, COVID was happening. I wanted to get a phone, and I was interested in technology. So I did some research on the internet and found out that if you start a blog, if you start a website, if you get enough views, you'll get people sending you devices. So I decided to take
Ah.
my website online, start doing some blogging, and I sent some letters out to Samsung. Obviously, I didn't get anything because I was super small, but years in, I did
What?
get
I'm
some.
sorry, I missed it. What age were you at that point? What
Oh,
age were you?
I was 13.
All right, good.
So I sent some letters to Samsung. Obviously, I didn't get anything that year, but in the coming years, I got some from some more niche companies that sent out devices, and I took those devices. I already had a phone by that time. I already had a laptop, so I took those devices, reviewed them, and then sold them at below market price on eBay. But because I got it for free, I still got basically 100% profit. And then into 2022, early 2023, I decided the technology landscape is full of people that hate our values and hate America, hate our ideas, and I need to get out and start speaking about this. So I decided to start doing more political commentary and talking about Christian issues and values in technology. One of our first campaigns was Cancel the Verge, which is a major technology website, and they were pushing insane pro-abortion messaging. And I was like, I'm not going to stand for that. So I decided to use my brand and started doing that pivot. And it basically allows me to open up into an aspect of the world that we don't really see today because there are so many technology websites and blogs that all cover the same stuff. They all have the same perspectives. It's doing this is, of course, fighting for what I believe in and also helps carve out an interesting niche for my brand and company.
Wow. So your activism is stronger even than I. So if you listen to in the early monologue, I know that you're an activist, and in today's world, we're living in so another level here, because as I mean, you look around campuses all over the country and much less the world, and then you look at the intersection of different news medias, and that's a whole nother aspect of what is happening in today's world and why voices like you really matter, because we're all screaming past each other, and we're not listening. We're not, education is not giving people that, because what happens when you don't have the ability to listen and then analyze that information, then you attach to an ideology, and then you just repeat things. But when that gets confronted, now it becomes an attack instead of a disagreement. So I love that fight that's going on. What are some of the before we get into, and there's already questions here.
Wow, I
We've
see.
got almost 300 people on, and um, I told you we've had as many as 15,400 people on, a couple times 11,000, 9,000, 400 is typical. But with a conversation like this, it is the middle of the day, so we'll see. But conversation like this, we've already got 300 people on coming up. So lot of curiosity. What are some of the things that you see are, let's just say, the top three, four things that, and we'll go into some technology too, of course. But
Mhm.
since you brought it up, and I'm very into this subject because it's a critical time, and there's a lot going on against the I mean, I get people disagreeing with things, but the
Mhm.
way we're doing things is very anti-productive. What are the four major subjects that you think are our biggest issue right now?
I think some of the major subjects that we're seeing both online and in the internet space would be legislation that's trying to ban things like banning social media, cell phones for teenagers, and this is being proposed by mostly people. I guess it's kind of bipartisan, but I'm seeing more of a push on this towards the right. I think that it's misguided. I think that the intentions are good at heart, but I do think it's misguided. So that's one thing that I sometimes like to push back on. But
Okay,
online,
before you go on, because that's really cool what you just said, because it's one of those things that I talked about earlier where we have discussions in the room where teenagers never are. You live in a different world than I do. I get why parents don't want to have kids have limited access to that different technologies because of the TikToks and all that social media. I get that aspect, but you just said that's not correct. What does teenagers know now in today's world? If you understand my question, I'm asking you
mhm,
straightforward. What can we be educated about of why we shouldn't or how we should handle that as adults?
right. I think that you have to think about the reason why something exists. Like, the quote,
Hmm.
if all your friends were jumping off a bridge, would you jump off one too? I kind of
Right.
find that
No.
misguided. Like, you have to ask, why are they jumping off the bridge in the first place? Maybe the bridge is on fire.
Oh.
We have to ask,
Ah.
why are all these teenagers interested in social media? Why do they want to do all of these trends and TikToks? And, I used to kind of hate TikTok to kind of like get clicks and likes from, I guess, a more older audience. But as I got older, I considered, like, why are all these people doing this? And I think it's because they want community. And the advent of technology has always been a communications based world. When the first phone was invented back in the 1800s, it was for communication. Television and radio were obviously invented for communication, and now our computers and cell phones are for communication. That is what social media allows these people to do, these teenagers to do. Secondly, communication, these technological aspects and inventions have also been primarily used for entertainment as well. So when you look at social media, let's say in the 1950s, you had a network like social media, everyone would have been on it because in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, it was reported that the average American spent about 8 hours a day watching television. Now, all that entertainment has moved from television but to the cell phone. So it's basically the same thing. You also had people talking for hours on their wall phones. That's basically what people do on Snapchat and Instagram direct messages. And back to the bridge analogy, you have to ask, why are all these people doing this? Well, I mean, what else do you want them to do? They say, go outside, touch grass. That's good. But the invention of Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, etc., did not nuke grass. You can still touch grass, and people still do that today. People still go outside today. But in their free time, I don't really see what else you want them to do. Obviously, you can read books, you can watch movies, you can watch YouTube, etc. And I like to do that stuff as well. So I'm not really seeing the pushback on this. I do think it's kind of overblown.
Wow, dude, sorry, but you just blew my mind because what you just laid out there, everybody listen to that. And if you're listening recorded, if you're listening later, whatever, go back and rewind that and listen to that again because seriously, that just really made a lot of sense. I mean, when in the 80s, because I was at that time in the
Mhm.
80s and I watched 8 hours. I think it was even higher than that in a lot of times of TV a night. And
Yeah,
actually, that was a big deal back then for a minute. And all those things you laid out, the phones, they actually had to get extended when they were house phones, the extended cords, and then we needed mobile phones in our car, and so all of that stuff makes a lot of sense. And
yeah,
it's interesting how we're making these intrusions intrusions into lives that we don't necessarily have a connection to. And what you just said, I think, goes a long way to respect and to um, making common sense real become reality. That was
yeah.
very well put. Very well put. I want to ask you a question here. I don't. Richard wants to ask you a question. How early does tech, speaking on what you're talking about,
Mhm.
start shaping teen identity today? So
Yeah.
it gets complicated and
Mhm.
it's empowering. So how early?
Yeah, well, teen identity, I think, is a really interesting concept in and of itself. I think that the devotional industrial complex, as I called them on my podcast once, there's tons of devotionals about teen identity, but I think that teen identity is basically all the same thing.
Wait, go back a second. What did you say you called it? It was the structure? What was that?
Oh, devotional industrial complex.
What is that?
So there's lots of Christian devotionals I was covering once that
Yes.
all cover about teen identity and finding your identity in Jesus Christ. And I think that's a good thing to have these devotionals, but I do acknowledge that they're basically the same thing. They're saying that your identity shouldn't be tied up in whatever you like to do, like sports or social media, or how many friends you have. Your identity should be in your faith and relationship with Jesus. However, when you strip away the religious aspect of this and just talk about teen identity as a whole, I think that in the United States, which is the area I cover, it's basically the same. It's a monoculture. They all like the same music. They all like the same, essentially, trends. You do have more niche trends happening on social media, but I have heard some of the same reels being played from people I don't know or I don't follow on their phones at the same time. So you do have essentially a sort of a monoculture. I don't know if technology has really shaped it. I guess you could say that someone's identity could be tied in their phone because about 90% of these teenagers have phones. So maybe that is it. So I could see how technology could basically make teen identity become more of a monoculture than, I guess, a subculture that you would see in the 80s, because they play different music on the radio because the radio wouldn't stretch from Los Angeles to New York. Now everyone can listen to the same song on Spotify at the same time.
Yeah, and often do. I think you add to that the fact that especially in the space we're talking about now, they talk about identity, and there's just so much more access to that. Back when I was a child, growing up in the '60s or even the '80s, well, definitely even the '80s, '90s, and so forth, but my comparison, my identity, or how I as a child was reflected upon by the society, was a town or a neighborhood or a block or a school as we grew up. Whether that's different or not, I'm not sure. But literally today, let me just put it this way: a young lady in Long Beach, California, can see something from somebody who posted 4 seconds ago in Paris and have a comparison to herself versus herself, or himself versus himself. Do you think there's a difference in that as far as identity?
I mean, it does make sense. I can see how some people compare themselves with others that they do not know. However, I do think that teenagers need to be resilient. In this world, we talk about how people see images on social media that are fake, or they see people that are prettier than them, and that drives low self-esteem. And I'm just saying, I mean, you have to acknowledge the fact that there are 8 billion people on planet Earth. There will be someone who is prettier than you. There are thousands of Miss America, Teen USA pageants, and only like, what, 1, 2, 3 winners. There's going to be someone who's prettier than you. There's going to be someone who's smarter than you. You just have to acknowledge that that's a fact of life. And you just have to deal with it if you want to be able to enjoy the benefits of this technology. Because when you start fear mongering based on, oh, some kid felt sad one day, then you're going to start seeing people ban stuff, and we don't want to see that happen.
Hey, you're in the trenches of teenhood, right? I'm sorry, how old are you now? Right now,
I turned 19.
Okay, so you're in the trenches you're on the elder. You're in the elder side, the elder class of the teen trenches. How do you see your peeps? How do you see your people doing? How do you, as far as that subject goes? Because we hear about bullying online. My concern was being bullied on the way to school or in the playground. Here it's also online, and maybe by huger numbers. How do you one, do you think it's a difference?
Yeah.
Maybe because of the numbers, and two, how is things going? I haven't heard much about it because in our media, it comes up, it becomes a cycle. There's lights on everywhere, and people are shouting. And after a little while, people get bored because they're under something else.
Yep.
Is there how are you guys handling all of that, the identity side?
I think internet bullying is obviously bad, cyberbullying is bad, but it's not as bad as getting beat up. People tell me mean things on the internet
True.
all the time. People send me like threats on the
No,
internet.
no, no. But how do you
Oh,
think in generally people
mhm,
are doing? Like you got, I get it. My granddaughter says the same thing. You know,
mhm,
if they're saying that about me, then they're not my circle. That's not my
yeah.
people. That's not my friends. I get it. That's fine. So, but are there more and more and more people as they're maturing into what all of this is, and your conversations are going on?
Mhm,
Is society of teenagers?
mhm,
The
yeah.
society, teenage society, are they handling this better than say 5 years ago, or was it even a big deal then? Because bullying's always been. There's
Yeah.
assholes in the world. Pardon my
Mhm.
language, but there are.
Well, I'm not really sure about that, and that's one of the things that I'm
Okay.
doing with this company. I started the Teen of the Week segment, and I'm basically having like average people come on, average teens come on and talk about their experiences, so I can learn from them and learn what they're
Awesome.
talking
That's
about.
great. That's a great platform. I love that platform.
But
So
I
is that
was,
where you're going to start learning things then more and more as far as how people are feeling and then kind of looking at that because you don't know until you know.
yeah, but I was homeschooled for most of my life, and then did private school. And COVID happened, so I went back to homeschooling. So I haven't really had much experience around people my own age because I also skipped a grade. So I was always about a year younger than everybody else. But now I'm in college, so I can ask people questions like that now.
Wow. You know what? You just said something really important there. That's a whole additional subject because being homeschooled, no
Mhm,
wonder. I mean, yeah, you're a bright guy, right?
mhm,
You're going after things
mhm,
because you're learning things directly. And I don't even know your parents. I don't even know the situation, how that was all done. Obviously, the result was as should be, as expected, but never, not often enough, does that result happen in the public school system. That's our Regeneration School Project, adding a
mhm.
fourth. I'm sorry, a fifth core subject because of what probably happened during homeschool. You learned about life, you learned about business, probably, and you learned about organizing monies and thinking analytically, right? Not just learning how to take tests, right?
Well, not
Describe your homeschooling.
yeah.
Describe your homeschooling. Yeah.
So I use this curriculum called Abeka. It's basically just a Christian school that is taped in Florida, and then they send you out the curriculum and the videos on DVDs. Now it's on streaming, but back then it was better for it to be on DVDs. So it was essentially basically like a normal school, just like a lot of writing, a lot of tests. I mean, it was nice. I liked the history, science, and Bible classes. The only problem was that it's was a whole bunch of like writing out things like by hand, and a whole bunch of seat work, which is just a whole bunch of busy work, which doesn't translate into school because they were taping it in a classroom full of like 30 people. So that of course they had to have busy work in a classroom of one. You don't really need to have busy work, but you still have to do that to pass the test. So I
Wow.
would say it's nice that I was able to become more advanced than most of the people my age and
Yeah.
outsmart them. However, I would say that it was kind of lonely not being able to get out and talk to other people as well. So that's what I'm trying to remedy with, of course, the Teen of the Week and talking about talking to these people, see their perspectives on life. Because while I do have a unique perspective on life, it's not everyone's perspective, and I know that. In the occasions when I went to Christian school, I figured that out as well.
Wow, that's interesting. I'm very surprised because homeschooling,
Mhm,
if you look at the numbers, typically is way more successful than the public school system. But typically, when I think of homeschooling, I think of a stay-at-home somebody that's
mhm,
working with you on a daily basis, and you that's where all that success comes because it's not just how to take tests. It's the
mhm.
homeschooling you typically gets in a little bit more and more the system you had. So basically, you're one of those people that saw the situation as he's going and made your own mind up. And congrats for that because you're very articulate and I love the way your thought process is going. And I assume then all of this confidence and this not just intelligence. That's all that's expected, right? I mean, that's expected. right? But the thought processes of reaching out for more and how to help more or do more is not, wow, we have 500 people on. Holy
Oh
cow,
wow,
I
that's
didn't even
great.
notice that. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Anyway, so congrats. I really love having this. I've wanted this, and it's more than I even expected so far. Not that that matters, but thank
Mhm.
you. I love what we're doing so far. Gerard's got a question here. Do teens feel pressure to be always online? That's a pretty good question. And also in school, now you may have a disadvantage in this. Should teens put their phones away? Two questions.
Okay, so for the first question, I'd say probably because they have people always snapping them. Uh, iMessage technically isn't online, but we'll count that as well. Discord, you have all these messages coming in, so I can see that there's
Oh,
pressure for this as well. But for the questions, cell phones in school, I've talked about this multiple times. They banned them in my home state of Texas, unfortunately. Uh, they should obviously be banned in the classrooms. You don't need to be on your phone in the classroom unless it's for a very specific application, like you're using the calculator, or we did some kind of science project with the cell phone. One time I took a photography class. Obviously, you're not going to buy hundreds of cameras for the people, so you just have them use your cell phones. Other than those limitations, ban them in the class. You could get caught with it. You get sent to detention. Now, sure, maybe this might affect something. There was some scene in Adventures in Odyssey where someone planted a cell phone on you and it got them sent to detention so they could get rid of them. But that's probably unrealistic. But at lunchtime, in the halls, why are they banned? I do not see the evidence that banning a cell phone for 30 minutes in lunchtime is going to magically make a F student B student. I'm not really seeing this. They weren't going to go to tutorials anyway. They're not learning anything. So why can't they have the entertainment? And for the smart kids as well, why can't they have the entertainment? They don't need to be in the tutorials. And quite frankly, some of these public school kids, I've been with them for about 2 years, and I fled that school. They are radicals. They are crazy, and sometimes you don't want to talk to them. I ran for president in 2022 at my public school, and for like 26 minutes, I got asked questions about if I was going to install condom vending machines in the bathroom and what my abortion policy was. That's utter nonsense. And when we're talking about going into the locker rooms as well, they were beating each other in there with shirts and socks and just all kinds of nonsense. You probably would have gotten assaulted. It's not safe. I'm not going to the bathroom of a public school without a cell phone. And I really don't want to have to talk to some of these people. So I might as well have my cell phone on me as well. And it's very productive. I ran my election off there in 2022, and when I went to private school in 2023, I recorded a news agency on there in 2023. So the blanket ban, I don't think is a good thing. Obviously, banning it in the classroom is a good thing.
let me ask you this, just to add to it. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. Um, but as a counter set of what
Mhm.
people are thinking, probably because I get it. Why would you ban them especially in the during lunchtime?
Mhm.
Um, but what I think possibly some thinking here is, and hear me out. What about that intersection? Now you said kids are crazy today. I'm sure
Yeah.
that's not every school system, but I hear kids are kind of crazy today, and their teachers are kind of having them become crazy.
Mhm.
For instance, I see kids, teachers are having junior high and high school kids
Mhm.
protest ICE things.
Oh man, that's
Teachers are
utter
caught.
nonsense.
That's
But
insane.
yeah,
And it should be, they should all be fired or worse because
yeah.
they're just police officers. That's all they are. And that's a whole political thing we can get into, but I don't want to. Well, I'd love to, but that's a whole thing, right? You know
Mhm.
that. But what about this? If you're, let's say it's just a normal school. Let's say it's not one of the schools that where there's issues.
Mhm.
There's issues, and that's not every situation
Yeah.
at all, I'm sure. But I don't know, but I'm sure. But what if that keeping those phones away during school system changed a vibe or changed a complexity within interactions around school? And is it going to become utopia or anything like that? No. But I'll give you a thought and then answer my question at
Mhm.
the end of it. So my youngest, I raised five boys. My
Mhm.
youngest is now He's married and is about ready to have his first child. He works at Leavenworth. He works for the military as what do they call him? MP, military police. But anyway, when he was about 17 at high school, we lived in Chicago at the time. I live in Arkansas, by the way, just over the border from you in Texas.
Nice.
Love to be here. I love it here, way over where I was. But when we were living there, and I was making something in the kitchen or something for lunch or something, and then I look over, and down the way a little bit is our a living room down there, or whatever, and they're watching TV on a big screen. They're watching TV, right? There's like 4 of them on a couch, and they're all looking at their phones like this, right? They're doing this, and I look over. Oh, okay, yeah, hey. And then I go back to, and then I look over again, the student, and then finally I go, hey, Matt, that's his name. I go, hey, dude, look, you got a bunch of your buddies here. Why aren't you guys talking to each other? You got the game on, the big baseball fans, a game on. And he looks over at them and he looks over at me and he goes, we are. And they were talking to each other through the phones. I assume Snapchat or something like that. But what if you put those phones away and then you actually had that where I'm leaning out like this to you across the table, the lunch table, and chatting or hey, smacking you on the shoulder? That was funny. Do you think that's important, or that's something I think why people, that vision, right? I just said why. So what do you think about that?
It's important. However, I don't think it's to be legislated. I don't think people should be legislated into having friends. I mean, if you're 16, 17 years old, you can make your own decisions. You can decide how you want to run your friend group. I don't think that the governor or your parents should be telling you how you should run your friend group, as long as it's within the constraints of like legality. You shouldn't be going out stealing cars or whatever. Obviously, they should tell you to stop that. It's how teenagers communicate with each other. It's funny if that's the way that they want to spend their time.
Exactly.
I think it's fine. Oh, I see.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll get this in a second, but go ahead if you want to continue that point. All I said was exactly. That's why I'm asking these questions, because I live in a analog world, and you live in a digital world. That we're looking down the road the same, but we're seeing analog and digitally. And that's a big difference, right?
Yeah.
So you're saying, you know what? That's how we talk to each other. Or they talk, or however talk to each other. It's the same thing as if I was sitting next to you on the here without a phone, as with a phone. It's just the different age. Another generation from now, it's probably going to be a whole different. Like
they might be in
the
Galaxy XRs or glasses, Apple Vision Pros. And I think that this is very coded to, like Christian radio stations, like Focus on the Family. They'll write some book about this. They'll say something like, oh, we want you guys to have community or something. And I do think that they have our best interest at heart. I also think that some of the people who advocate for this are just kind of, click forming. They don't actually care of what teenagers do. I don't think people are actually sitting around concerned about the state of teenagers who are on their phones and some of the state away. Now, I have not been to many hangouts. I didn't really have many friends. In 2024, I went and helped plan this summit at the mall with one person and my brothers. And then in 2025, I went over to someone else's house. At the mall, we talked to each other, and then we also on our phones. And at someone else's house, the people that I met, we talked to each other, and we were also on our phones. We all kind of planned it together. And also, like, this was outside of school. I'm not really sure if the people in school want to be doing stuff like that. If they want to do something like that, they can obviously join a club. They can join a social club. The clubs can set their rules for themselves, where they ban cell phones. They can all have their own events. So I'm not saying that we should be on our cell phones 24/7. I'm just saying it shouldn't be illegal to do so.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Couple things before we get into this part here. How do faith conversations happen in digital spaces? I want to add to this something that recently I've been talking to people about on the show. This is because this intersection is curious and it's concerning both. So there are are churches that are starting to back apps and so forth that actually give prayers and messages and meaning through AI as an AI digit. I mean, what are your thoughts on uh, that? And then go right into how do those conversations happen in digital spaces? I heard a little chuckle with you when you talked about the app that I was talking about because it's very controversial. What do you think about that? And then go here after that.
So if you're talking about the chat with God application, I'm not sure if that's a good idea because it's
I'm not.
obviously
I'm not sure which one it is, but it's that kind of thing, right? Go ahead.
right,
Chat with God app, right?
right. It's uh, it should be vetted. I mean, you probably shouldn't say it's God. Now, I've got questions. The website launched an AI chatbot. Answers in Genesis 1 did launch an AI chatbot. And I think that if they did that, that'd be good. Is if it's essentially basing information that's been vetted by the Bible and you can ask questions. I think that would be good. If a church wanted to do that, I think that would be good. I don't think you should
Okay,
say.
hover here for a second. Okay, and I get what you're saying right there. I mean, that's it. That's the whole thing right there. So if you're talking to God, what was the name of that app? I'm
I
sorry.
think it's called Chat with God, Chat with Jesus.
Chat with God or Chat with Jesus app. That's who knows what's going to be talking about, what that's going to be talking
Yeah.
about, and what influences they might want to introduce along the way as well. So that is very dangerous, I think.
Well, yeah,
And
it's
then
not
also,
Jesus, obviously. So I would just change the name.
of course,
Yeah.
of course. So the other one is that it's talking about a chapter by chapter or whatever, an app that gives you that from. That's an interesting one. It's like reading it out loud is what you're saying, or is it analyzing it?
Right. I think Logos Bible Software has some. I interviewed one of the founders of a Christian AI chatbot called Dominion Chat. I think Christian branded artificial intelligence products are a good idea. You just have to make sure that they're vetted. I'm just not saying that they.
How do you know if they're vetted? How do we know? Are you checking it out, you mean?
Well, yeah, I would myself, obviously, as a technology reviewer, I'd go in and review it myself.
Yeah. Right.
And you probably want to see the ministry that purports to be behind it. So if it's something like Got Questions, Focus on the Family, Answers in Genesis, obviously I would support that because I trust and like the content. However, just some random ministry I haven't heard of, then I probably wouldn't trust them myself. But to the question, how do faith conversations happen in digital
Yes.
spaces? I think that actually I've talked about this a lot of times. You have the Christian Instagram girl is one of the major driving influences of faith in digital spaces. It's really funny. So she'll take like a picture of herself holding a Bible, or she'll have a Bible that's like super highlighted with all like little sticky notes. And, she'll take a picture of herself and holding the Bible, and everyone's going to be like clapping and super excited for her. And, maybe she'll share a Bible verse or some sort of Bible lesson, and everyone's going to be super excited and super, believing in her. And I think that's great, right? You're taking the influence that she already has, that she already gotten the likes herself, if she just posted a picture of herself and she added the Bible verse. I think that's a good thing. But obviously that's not sustainable for everybody else. So I think that the way that we talk about social media at church, the internet at church, I guess it can kind of be interesting, though. We do see lots of blame of technology in church. You can be like, guys, get off your phone. That's the entire message. Or guys, your likes do not matter. Your only likes matter, which is if Jesus likes you. So it can be kind of.
I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I think also what this other question was asking on top of that is how. So you're suggesting into Instagram communities is where a lot of those conversations go. And what do you talk about? Same thing you would be talking about in person, right?
Right. So for
you gotta understand, there's a lot of people. It's a pretty good split, but you're talking to a lot of old fogies. And we're like, okay, so how does this all work? Because me being analog, you're racing by digitally. How much faster than me? I'm still analog, right? So digitally, man, you're just going bam, 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 bam. So as you're talking about this, that question to Dixon, he's not as near as old as I am, but he's probably your dad's age, and going, how does faith conversations happen in digital spaces? Communities?
Right. So
Is your church involved? What does all that look like?
I think that there's about two tiers of this. So the first tier would just be the like person posting a picture of himself holding a Bible, maybe posting a Bible image. That's tier number one. Tier two would be the person goes out onto Instagram and makes a video explaining something. People like Peyton's Faith or Hazel's Truth will do this, as well as some political commentary as well. And they'll talk about some issue that pertains to teenagers or some issue that pertains to the world and talk about the Bible. Hazel's Truth is more political. I think Peyton's Faith is down the middle on both sides. And for the first tier, it's just they take a picture, people like it, and maybe someone sees a Bible verse and maybe they'll give their life to Jesus. Maybe they'll go to church. They'll post pictures of themselves at their church youth group ministry. People might come and show up. And then for the second tier, where they're actually giving commentary, giving their opinions, giving their biblical stances, you'll see more people engaging in the comments, and maybe they'll reply. There are some larger accounts, so they won't see every comment, and maybe you can suggest something on their story, which is an image that is posted onto Instagram and deletes in 24 hours. And They can put a sticker on there. You can ask them a question. Maybe they'll answer the question about this as well. But yeah, that's two of the ways that faith interacts in the digital world. But with the churches, you see stuff like larger churches will have like a social media ministry, and they'll post reels, short videos,
Yes.
and pictures of their church group services or their sermons. They'll put their sermons up in clip form. People might interact with that as well. And then they'll use group applications, maybe a group text, group Meet, Discord, etc., to have a group chat for all the teenagers in a life group, where all the people who live in the same area get together and maybe have like a small Bible study on like a Friday night.
It's funny. The more and more we talk about each of these items and these questions, it's just like it's evolution happening in front of us, old people's eyes. That we are having. We are framing things in space, in the right space, certainly, but in space, how it should be. Because everything you're saying, if what'd you call it, a media minister is having that output, it's like if I was in the old day, me as the media minister was giving you a pamphlet. Now you have, and here's the thing, a pamphlet's good. I get some good stuff. For a page and a half, right? And I've read that in 3 minutes, it's over. And what you're talking about now is so much more and fuller and just gigantic compared to where we used to be. And that's all this is. It's like the horse compared to the Maserati, right?
I do wish it was bigger, though. I have been interested.
Bigger as in what?
More long form. So I'm an evangelical. I've been interested in stuff like this for a long time. So I went back and researched the history of like Focus on the Family's magazines and of the evangelical magazines that existed around the early 2000s. And we don't really see much of that today. It's all basically moved to Instagram. So I'm thinking a Christian teen website or magazine might be interesting, especially talking about things that pertain to their life, not just a devotional. There's millions of devotionals, but maybe something that pertains to their life and the culture today. That's actually interesting. And, maybe I can start something like that. So I would like to see something like that is a benefit from the analog world that we have not yet translated into digital.
I like how you stole my word there. So John has what online space feels safe for teens right now?
So safety is important, of course, but I think that if you are just smart, if you just have, I don't know, above basement level IQ, you can be safe on almost any internet platform. Obviously, they shouldn't be on illicit websites, but people talk about, oh, Snapchat's bad because people send inappropriate pictures. I'm like, don't send the pictures. Like, you just don't. Like it. I mean, you're 14 years old. You should know better than this. Instagram, right? You post a picture of yourself. Hey, maybe don't post it in front of your house address. Like, just don't do that. Or like, just assume that everyone on the internet is fake until proven innocent. So don't give out personal information that can be used to dox you. And we have been talking about internet security and safety for 20, 30 years. Like ever since they got email accounts back in the early 90s, everyone was like, don't tell it, don't say this, don't say that. So the education has been there. The messaging is out there. You just have to know
True.
if your teen is like smart enough not to do anything stupid. And obviously, I haven't done anything, and I trust that the teens should be able to manage that as well.
Yeah, and that's just common sense. That's that is something that's wider spread per se, but definitely the same thing. You got to have common sense. You got to be educated. You got to think about stuff.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something else?
Oh, I was gonna say, like the trends, people jumping off of buildings or whatever, running through fences on the internet and posting it, and then the media gets out and it's like, guys, look all these teens, guys. This is what social media is making your teens do. No, I'm pretty sure Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok didn't get up and basically tell the teen to go run through a fence. I'm sorry, and this might sound harsh, but if your teen was dumb enough to run through a fence in 2025, they would have been dumb enough to run through a fence in 1990. You just wouldn't have seen it because they wouldn't have uploaded it to the internet.
Yeah, it's not making him do that. No, I was one of those kids that were dumb enough to run through the fence. Yeah, no, we used to, when I was a kid, we used to shoot BB guns at each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably keeping them
I
safer.
totally, I
Yeah,
totally get you. Yeah. I totally get. The thing is I learned this from another old guy like me, Penny Setkin from the lab. Actually, you see the logo right there, Leaf Lab.
yeah.
It's a agile learning thing. Anyway, he told me one time because he works with kids so much, basically from the end of high school into college, even into the workforce. Digital, it's a really cool program. But he told me, he says, you know what, Rod? He says, this was a little while ago, and it really opened up my eyes because he said we got to understand we aren't given, and I do a lot of shows on this now. We aren't given kids your age and even a little bit younger. You get down to 15, 14, you start to get into different maturities, of course. But right in here, you guys, one, are inheriting things we either ignore or do. And on top of that, very shortly, you're walking out into a world that's more or less you're blindfolded on, and now that is part of that hindrance is coming from us not understanding your needs. Let's say, I mean, you're moving so much faster. And Penny basically said it like this. He goes, look, he goes, these kids are bright, man. They're smart. They're more informed. They're just communicating in their way. And we don't get that yet. Meaning me, us adult. We don't get that yet. And that's why these conversations are really, really important. Here's a great question from Anita. And you see, obviously, a lot of old people that are concerned, right? How does growing up with smartphones change how teens see relationships? Is any of that different? You notice a trend going on? We're answering these questions, and I'm going through and going, my God, it's like me asking my kid about something during that time. I mean, we don't understand that yet. Go ahead.
I think the relationships aspects have changed. Obviously, I'm not an expert on relationships that happened before I was born,
True.
but I think it's basically the same. I mean, you had photo albums, now they've moved over to Instagram. You had people talking on the phone for hours with their friends. It's just moved over to cell phones or whatever chat app that they like using. You have people not doing diaries. Now you have them talking to artificial intelligence. So I think it's just moved over to a specific app. It's a direct one-to-one comparison of everything. People send each other Instagram reels before they probably talk about what was happening in some magazine and a TV magazine or watch television together. So I think it's just a direct one-to-one comparison of everything that had already existed up until this time.
Yeah, 100% it is. There's no doubt about that. That's the point. Yeah, Lanrick here says, this is an interesting question to me, honestly. What tech trend do adults worry about that teens don't care about anymore? Which I assume happens a lot. We're all humans.
Probably
Trends.
any stupid meme trend that gets picked up like 6 months afterwards. An example of this would be former Vice President Kamala Harris released some thing on X called Kamala HQ_67. Like no one cares about that, and no one is going to follow you on X to watch you interview some random political figure that's irrelevant. Like no one's watching that. So
That's well played, my friend. Well played. Branson Hill here. How do you personally balance faith with a digital life? Because we've looked at it from different aspects. You're looking at it as bring it on, technology and faith. Let's go together. Let's do this. Go ahead.
I'm very interested in the way that faith can help drive technological innovation. Like I was talking about, I want to see those magazines come back again, but to a digital space. I want to see these communities for Christian teens rise again. I want to see more Christian influencers online talking about their perspectives. And of course, we have thousands of devotionals now they're coming to the internet. We have the Bible application. I think there's so much interest that you can have in the intersection between faith, technology, news, and culture. And the internet is a ripe spot for that. And I think that, we talk about how teenagers spend all their time on social media and on the internet, but no one has really presented any alternatives to what they want. Let's say that for some reason, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok went away, they got deleted. I'm not really seeing any content out there that would really engage or interest them. And I think that with faith, which is extremely important, we can use that content. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah. I love this perspective. It's just so straightforward and eye-opening, and kind of a disturbing way of how blind most people, most of the people, if not all the people making the decisions of the next, let's call it decade.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of a critical time, and as this evolution happens, in holding back your generation more out of not more, out of ignorance, holding your generation back unnecessarily. And that's why these kind of conversations, intergenerational conversations, need to happen. So Dixon asked, do teens feel more empowered or more controlled by technology right now?
I'd say that I feel empowered by it. I'm not
Love
sure
that
how
question.
Every teen feels about it because I don't have much experience with them. Of course, that's why I'm going to be asking them questions. I have some people coming onto a podcast this week. I'll ask them this question. But I do feel empowered by it. I built a website, a YouTube channel, and it gives me a sense of purpose, something that I can do with my life. Because if I didn't have this, I don't really have any talents that are visible on a stage, like on a talent show. There's nothing that I could really demonstrate. So I think it does empower us. And, I can't see the way that it does, quote unquote, control you. But I think it's just filling time that they would just spend, I don't know, doing nothing, maybe sleeping. So when they're swiping Instagram Reels or TikTok, I acknowledge that I'm doing it. So I know that I'm doing it. I can stop whenever I want to. I think that they could as well. These social media applications are being sued for being addicting. And I think that's kind of weird because that's basically suing your company for making a product that's too good. Like, I don't think you should be sued for making a product that works.
Yeah, you go back to the TV analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Just, it's if 300 million adults were listening to this, you talk right now, this conversation, and the things that we had, I think there'd be a lot of, but we don't have it.
Yeah.
We will get there. We will get there because of folks like you. I promised this guy, Bradley, that he showed up at like my first ever show.
Oh, wow.
Just out of randomly. Yeah, just kind of randomly. We've done 500 shows as of this week. We'll hit 500 shows. Thank you. In a year and a half. So we've been busy. About 22,000 subscribers over that time across our social media. But anyway, Bradley was like, he popped up out of nowhere. And so I promised him, I said, hey, anytime you come back, I promise you, I'll give you a shout out. And every once in a while he pops up, especially for these conversations. So what do adults misunderstand? Here we go. misunderstand about teen social media use. That's what we're talking. He asked this earlier. These next ones were actually earlier. They may be a little behind. So let's fill in the color in between the layers for Bradley. Would you do that?
I think that the adults assume that the vast majority of teenagers on social media are idiots and that they don't know what they're doing and that they're wasting their time on that today.
And it's us. It's
Yeah.
us. That's the idiots. Go
Mhm.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that the media, of course, they have to fill the news cycle, 24-hour news, with something. So if some stupid teen does something like run over a
Yeah.
fence, steal a car, and post it to social media, eat a Tide Pod, and maybe some other people do it as well, then they have to have
Right.
something to talk about, so they will blame it. But this is the thing that happens on the internet all the time, not just on social media. But people will see some sort of alleged problem, and then they'll say, "Hey guys, look at this problem. This is the downfall of civilization. It's completely over. It's never been so over before." And then they won't give any solutions on how they should solve the
Well,
problem because they make tons of money by just saying, "Hey guys, look at this problem," and then not diagnosing the solutions.
speaking of solutions, here's a really good question by Clive. He says, how does AI actually affect students in high school education, let's say education today? Now, hold on. Before you answer that, though, to me, now connecting dots that you have created and helped me connect in this conversation, to be honest with you, just to be blunt, I look at his question now and I think of back when I was in high school. So we got this engineering calculator. It was by Calculus. I forget the name of the LS, I think. But it was this, instead of just a calculator, it had all these other functions so we could start doing algebra and stuff like that. That was a big freaking deal for us, which is kind of embarrassing to say nowadays. A little bit later, we got computers in the home. So we kind of started to catch up. That's a whole nother subject to talk about with old people. Because if you think about it, you're too young, but I was around. People my age back then went into total depression and they were isolated because they were isolated from society. People are on their cell phones, you know, they were on computers, they were on this and that. That split is the same as now, but way bigger now. Way bigger now. But anyway, so to add to Clive's comment here, our question here, how does AI actually affect students in high school? Is it, I'm going to say education, student education in high school. We talked about the social side. It is what it is, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, so cheaters are going to cheat. They're going to cheat anyway. They were cheating on the internet. They're cheating by having books. One time I caught someone cheating. They had the preamble to the Constitution saved as the wallpaper of their Apple Watch. So when we had to write it from memory, they just looked at their Apple Watch. So the people who are using artificial intelligence to cheat, we're going to cheat anyway, and obviously that's to be cracked down on. Unfortunately, there's not really 100% accurate way to prove that someone was using artificial intelligence. There are ways that you can test it. You can make sure that they write in a specific application. Maybe you can make sure that they write, show their edit history. Maybe you can see if there's tons of M dashes before when you have their writing history from a few years ago and they never used an M dash before. So there are ways, but it's not 100% accurate to catch them. But they were cheaters anyway. It's not like artificial intelligence made them cheat. And it is a good way to learn. I think it's one of the greatest inventions of the 21st century. It does have good research. Google AI mode, Perplexity can help you find research. Google Scholar has an AI mode where you can find research papers. So I think it's good for research. Maybe you can use it for graphics in your Google Slides presentations. You know, some of the more manual work like graphic design of a Google Slides presentation or just editing moving the slides around and putting the text where it needs to be. I really wouldn't call that cheating. It's just basically busy work that's being eliminated.
Yeah, no. And ChatGPT is the same thing. I mean, you can really help organize some certain functions using that. I mean, let's face it. You said the word Google or the company Google. Google is the original AI. I mean, us using Google in the 90s? I don't know. I don't remember when Google came out, but that's AI. It's a very infinite form of it, but it's AI. This is a great question from Allie Moore. I love this question. Are online identities different for kids from real life identities for teens? I said for kids, for teens.
Teens. Okay. I think that, you have these influencers that say, social media is not real life. It's a highlight reel. We use filters, we use edits. I'm not sure about that. I mean, people, mostly women, go out with makeup in real life all the time. So that's basically a filter, just in real life, which is fine. They probably
100%.
are, I'd say, at least on not the public internet. So maybe not like what they're posting to what everyone can see. I'm different. Like I'll just be honest, even more honest on the internet than what I'll be in real life. But I think that maybe in like group chats or text messages, private direct messages, video calls, they're going to be their true selves, and the way that they present themselves to the world is probably more curated than social media or the internet, because it's more. Well, I guess they see it as more private to talk to someone in a chat than maybe talking to someone where anyone can hear you, anyone can hear your beliefs in the real world, like say in a school lunchroom.
You could be overheard much easier that way.
Mhm.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, there's kids are not only more informed. Now, kids are still kids. So this
Yeah.
is what we're talking about today. Doesn't mean all you kids go home and tell your parents to shut up. I got it from here, because that's not the case. There's a
Mhm.
lot of life out there.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, however, with that said, we need to have more conversations with you day in and day out, because there's a lot of things that we're in another form. I use the word abandoning our kids.
Mhm.
That's not this conversation, but in essence, we are. Because if we're not having that conversation, we're at least hindering our kids. It's like putting one arm. There was a talk show host years ago that has since passed away, but Rush Limbaugh, a very famous guy, but he always talked about having one arm tied behind his back when he was talking
Mhm.
to people. That's what we're doing to the digital teens of today. So do teen and you know what, it varies too, because obviously a little bit bigger deal in the cities where everybody's more intense on each other, and rural areas a little more relaxed, but all those same things still apply. Adam Wayne here, I love that name. Do teens feel heard by schools? And I already know I already know the answer to this. By schools when it comes to technology rules. The answer's no.
Yeah.
Or is it getting better?
I don't think they are. The media, the like student journalists, they'll pick like 4 kids out of 1,000 to interview, and they'll all say, "Oh, wow, guys, I feel so much more connected with my family because with my friends at school because I don't have my phone anymore." While the rest of the people probably don't feel heard by that today. I think we're seeing tons of backlash against the internet, tons of backlash against artificial intelligence and social media. It's
We
basically
are.
it's the scapegoat for everything that they perceive as wrong, because not all teens, but some teens are idiots and they're expressing it online, and the adults feel like that they're losing control, so they have to stop it. And it's really profitable to scapegoat something that people don't like. So I don't think that they're being felt heard by in the schools right now.
Yeah, no, that's an absolute truth. We've been going over an hour already.
Yeah.
That went pretty fast, at least in my opinion. I got a couple comments for you to read out loud for me. Would you do
Okay.
that for me?
Yeah, sure.
Let's start there.
Okay. Richard C says the Tech Boy's insight is impressive, especially at such a young age. Well, thank you, and I hope to keep growing this insight.
I've saved these for the end. Go ahead. This is
A
you,
huge
Branson.
Branson Hill says huge respect to the Tech Boy for sharing lived experience, not theory. Well, I do try to be honest about everything, and sometimes my Christian base gets mad at me for some of my beliefs, and sometimes some of the older people will get mad at me. But I try to be as honest and authentic as I possibly can be.
Well, I am a lesser version of both of those things as you.
Mhm.
In other words, I also have a very good relationship with the Lord, and I have a little bit of I have a pretty decent a little bit of knowledge about technology,
Mhm.
and anything I've heard today has been nothing less than impressive. Why don't you read this one now?
John Morris says, really enjoying this discussion. Thank you. Well, I like to have these kinds of discussions all the time. And Adam Wayne says such an important topic for today's world. And yeah, I do think so. I do like to bring the Gen Z perspective, of course, tempered by Christianity, because we're not seeing our perspectives put out there. My perspective is always not aligned with Gen Z, and it's always not aligned with what I'd say mainstream evangelicals are saying. So I do think it's good to have a third opinion between the camps.
Well, and not only that, but I like to say this a lot. This show is about the great middle class, which is, has people that are, making in the millions and millions of dollars to people that are making nothing, right? There's a lot of us here, and we all basically feel the same issues. Now, there's a divide happening in many different areas, and this is just one of them. But at the end of the day, these conversations, like I said, I'm an independent. Most people live in the middle. Only a few live out here in the extremes, but they get all the voice because the media and the politics love to play that game in keeping us divided, like you said. And that's a simple fact. This is another area that we could actually become less divided on, because it's not a matter of you and I being divided, or my age and your age being divided. It's about not knowing each other. And that comes from not having that one conversation at a time. What do you want to leave these five? My God, very, very good day today. Very good job. Awesome job. Congrats for anybody. And you did a fantastic job. Very, very well positioned, very well put. And yeah, I mean, we'd love to hang out and stay on. And I'm going to put you on the green room.
Okay.
We ought to stay in contact, because these are conversations that can continue if you would like to.
Oh,
But
definitely.
at the end of the day, what do you want to leave these people with? You've got 500-ish people here. Before you give them a big wave, what is a lasting thought you think's important to leave? And honestly, I think most people here are 40 and up, 35. Well, probably 35 and up.
Mm-hmm. So there is hype on the internet. There is outrage on the internet. There are crazy people on the internet. But I have faith and belief in the IQs of most teens. I have faith and belief in the IQs of humanity, that we can all know when we are being scammed or ripped off or had. Just don't believe the hype. There are problems that exist online, but the day-to-day person, some random kid in Iowa, some adult living in California, someone living in Kansas, is not dealing with everything that's happening. It's just being amplified, of course, by the media, which I don't blame them for that. They have jobs, they need to make money, and it is something that's interesting and newsworthy. But every problem that you see online or on the internet, or every scandal or controversy, is mostly fake, and no one really cares about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing we have to understand, is because you've grown up in this hype world. Mm-hmm. So hype world to you is it's slowed down compared to me.
Yeah.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So what you've experienced is that slowed down. You've been there, you've seen it, you've lived in it. So you have the lived experience that I don't. Mm-hmm. And it's these things that we have to have conversations about day in and day out. Well, whatever, until we're both comfortable, we're in the same arena, because we're on the same side. We just don't know it.
Yeah.
Give everybody a big wave. That was a great job. I love you for it.
Well, thanks for having me on. Check out thetechboy.org and our YouTube channels. The Tech Boy.
Hold on. I'm so sorry. I've been forgetting I just been, crushing over you here. I've been doing my job. Would you do you see the private chat, or the chat box to your right there?
Private chat or just comments?
Well, for you, comments, it's a different term for me over here. In there, put all this contact information as you're talking. I didn't mean to cut you off. Start over and give me your contact information. I'm going to put this in the comments.
Oh, okay. So I'll put it into private chat. All right. So.
Oh, wait. Can you go right into comments?
Oh, I have to connect my YouTube to it. So let me do that right now.
Yeah, because if you could do it, just do it right into comments. I don't know why it doesn't show up for everybody, but.
Okay.
But as you're doing that, say it as well.
Okay.
No sense.
It's loading right now. So I'm in. All right, so you guys can check out my tech content at thetechboy.org, at thetechboy.org, and on my, oh, it's not letting me put in links. So just TheTechBoy. And it should be the first result on Google and on YouTube. And if you
Right
want
there.
more of the political commentary that we were talking about, that's Truth with the Tech Boy and the Tech Boy _ media on Instagram, and on X it's the Tech Boy org. Just at the Tech Boy org. Yeah.
Got it?
It didn't go through, so maybe you can send it. I'll put it in the private chat.
Yeah, put it in the private tab. I'll copy and paste it. Go through. There it is. Go through go say that stuff one more time. Give a big wave. I'll throw you in the green room. I'll meet you back there in a little bit, and I'll close out the show.
Okay, so the techboy.org is it's our main website, our flagship website for tech and tech commentary. The Tech Boy, just on YouTube, it's going to be like a yellowish orange logo. It's going to be our regular YouTube. We talk about technology, we talk about culture. We have a podcast that streams live every week, usually on Saturdays. And on for political commentary, it's Truth with the Tech Boy, and that's on YouTube, the TechBoy _ media on Instagram, and the TechBoy org over on X. X is basically where I combine all my thoughts together. So I talk about technology, I talk about the news. It's basically me uncensored as much as I can be without getting banned off the site.
All right, give everybody a big wave. By the way, X is a really important platform. It's really getting a lot more because people are really coming back to reading as much as they are these short little stupid.
Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, long form's coming back.
Yeah, I really hope so. I really like long form content. We like social media, but I think long form is very important. But God bless, and tech talk to you later. Hope to join again sometime.
Awesome job, man. I'll see you in a second. All right, that was a great show, man. As always, I'm excited about technology shows, but this had multiple layers, and as well as you saw, very not just confident, but confined, stable, strong voice that has the ability to pass a message forward. And this is one of those messages that to me is critical, because for us older folks, it's really critical. I mean, we should always talk to our kids, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff's always important. But really, you've noticed over this platform, over these 500 shows, different times, but especially really this subject of having why conversations like this matter. I mean, it's important because we're going into a place we haven't been before. And it's not because they give us any answers at this point, but because they remind us that wisdom doesn't only come with age. It's from attention, from curiosity, and lived experience, like we saw today. What you heard today wasn't performance. It was perspective. And that's exactly what Voices at the Table is about. Creating space where young people aren't talked over, filtered, or reduced to stereotypes, but are invited into real dialogue. We had that just now, today. It was awesome. With respect. This conversation also reflects the heart of the Regeneration School Project. The belief that education isn't just about information, but about helping people think, speak, listen, and engage responsibly. In a world today they're inheriting, if today's resonated with you, here's how you can support this work. First, please subscribe to our Substack channel, to our YouTube channel at Rodd Duff 1939, that directly helps these conversations reach more people. The Substack is insightstraighttalk.substack.com. That's where we publish 3 times a week with deeper content, reflections, and ongoing dialogue and connected to these shows. And if you would like to support us even further, follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. I also encourage you to check out my weekly column in the Mangum Star News, where many of these conversations continue in written form, connecting national issues with local communities. To our partners, the Mangum City Library, Leaf Lab, and the Regeneration School Project, and Voices at the Table, thank you for helping us build something that values people over noise and dialogue over division. And to our guest, thank you for showing up thoughtfully and honestly and without pretending you're anyone other than who you are. This is Insights and Straight Talk, where conversations aren't rushed, voices are respected, and the future is steeped in honest dialogue, one at a time. We'll see you next time. I'm Rod Duff, and I am out of here.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. Praise God. And